another edition of Center Stage Suites. Today we are talking about the musical Waitress, music and lyrics by the one and only Sara Bareilles. For those of you who are not as familiar with the story, it tells the story of Jenna, who is a waitress at a local restaurant, but she is well known for making her pies, and they're always these crazy fantastical pies. So today we are going to make our own little crazy fantastical pie. So since Thanksgiving is right around the corner, I wanted to do a riff on a pumpkin pie. So we're going to do a pumpkin s'mores pie. So instead of a traditional crust, we're gonna do a graham cracker crust, and then we're gonna play with some chocolate and toasted meringues to kind of give you that marshmallow flavor. So let's get started. For the crust, I have about 9 graham crackers. That's about 1 sleeve worth of the cinnamon graham crackers, because you want that little extra cinnamony flavor. It goes really well with the pumpkin. And I have melted 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. We're just gonna mix the 2 of them together to make the base for our crust. Turn the light on. Basically, you just want to keep mixing the butter and the graham crackers together until it kind of forms this like wet sand consistency. And you really want to make sure that all of the graham cracker gets a little bit of that butter in it. It takes a minute or two, so just be patient. But once it's there, then it's right into the pie plate. Our crust mixture is all put together. Time to put it into the pie plate. So I have a standard 9-inch pie plate. I have sprayed it with baking spray just so that the crust will easily release after baking. And we're just gonna pour the mixture right in. And then you can either use your hands, or I like to use the bottom of a measuring cup that's got a nice flat surface to help me press it out and just make sure it stays nice and firm, and then you don't get like graham cracker in your fingernails or anything. It's cleaner. So just take it and press it out. And I always like to start from the center and kind of work it out gently. Make sure there's no, holes in it. You don't want to be able to see the bottom of your pie plate. And just keep working it around. Make sure you push it up the side as well so you get that full crust. And you just keep going until it's done. Giving our crust a final little press just to make sure there's no holes and everything is firmly in place. All right, looks good. We're gonna pop this into a preheated 375-degree oven for 7 minutes. Now let's talk about the custard filling for the pie. So this is gonna be pretty standard, straightforward, regular old pumpkin pie. So we've got 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar, and then we've got 2 eggs. I'm just gonna mix those in to start. Let's make sure they are nice and combined. And then we are going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt and our pumpkin pie spice mixture. Now mine consists of 2 teaspoons, kind of heaping teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, and about 1/8 of a teaspoon of cloves. So we're just gonna pop those right in. It already smells so good. All right, and now for the star of the show, our pumpkin. So 1 can, 15 ounces of pumpkin puree. If you make your own at home, great for you. I don't have that kind of time, but I certainly admire those who do. So make sure you get it all out of there. All right. And we're gonna mix our pumpkin into our egg and sugar and spice mixture. All nice and combined. And then the final ingredient for our custard is 1 can of evaporated milk, which is about 12 ounces of evaporated milk. We're just gonna pour that in and mix it up. The custard filling is completed. Now we just need to wait for the crust to come out of the oven. Our pie crust just came out of the oven. We need to let it cool for a few minutes before we put the custard in so we don't curdle the eggs. But while it's cooling, I'm gonna put in 1/4 cup of chocolate chips. We're gonna put them at the bottom of the crust, and it's just gonna kind of start to melt so that you have a little chocolate underneath all the pumpkin when you take a bite. And then we're gonna put some chocolate on top later too. And you just wanna kind of shake them around so they are all over the bottom of the pie. And then we just let them sit for about 5 minutes. They'll start to melt and get kind of glossy on top. We're not gonna like brush them around or anything. We're just gonna let them be and then pour the custard right over them. Our chocolate chips have had time to start to get soft and melt a little bit in the base of our crust. So now it is time to add in our custard. So we're just gonna pour it in. Make sure you get all those beautiful chocolate chips covered. Now, if you're noticing like I am right now that my crust is a little shallow today, don't overflow it. You can always just get rid of the extra custard mixture that's left. Some days, graham cracker crusts are a little bit difficult. Sometimes they get higher and they'll stay up the whole wall of your pie tray. Some days they won't. So if it's like this and you realize you've reached your edge, don't overflow it. You don't want to do that. It'll ruin your crust underneath. So we're gonna pop this into a 425-degree oven. It's gonna go in for 15 minutes, and then we're gonna knock the temperature down after 15 minutes. So we'll see you in 15. Our 15-minute timer just went off. I just turned the oven down to 350 degrees without opening it, and we're gonna let it stay there for about 40 to 50 minutes. Our pie has come out of the oven and it's been cooling for about 10 minutes now. So while it was cooling, I melted about a heaping 1/4 cup of chocolate chips in the microwave, about 20-second intervals, give it a stir and just keep going, just watch it so it doesn't burn. And now I've got it in my piping bag. I'm just gonna cut the tiniest little tip for it, and I'm going to pipe it onto our pie. Now, if you wanna just drizzle instead, this is where you get to be fun and creative and put this chocolate on however suits you. I like to do a little kind of like crisscross pattern on it with my chocolate, but you do whatever you want. This is your pie. So, we're just gonna get started on that piping. All right. So you just gently pipe. I love doing a riff on a pumpkin pie like this to honor Waitress because, like Jenna in the show, I learned to bake from my mother. And the first pie she ever taught me how to bake was a basic pumpkin pie. So it seems just totally appropriate to be doing a little riff on that to honor a musical that talks about a love of baking so much. Right, piping is done. You want to just eat the rest of this if you want. So now we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna start on our meringue. So it's still hot, so pot holders are definitely necessary. Behind me, I've started heating up some hot water to do a double boiler. And in my bowl here, I have 2 egg whites that I've been allowing to come to room temperature while we've been baking so far. To that, I'm going to add 1/8 teaspoon of cream of tartar. This is gonna help stabilize the egg whites. And then I have a total of 1/4 cup of sugar, but right now I'm gonna start by just putting half of it in with our egg whites. And we're just gonna give it a quick little whisk here before we go put it over heat, just to get everything combined. And now we're gonna take it over to our double boiler. I'm gonna put it on the double boiler. We're gonna whisk it continuously for about 3 to 5 minutes until the egg whites are nice and frothy, they're no longer translucent, and that's when we're gonna switch over to using our electric mixer. So we've got our egg whites on our double boiler, and I'm just gonna whisk them continuously for about 3 to 5 minutes. And as you can see now, our egg whites are completely opaque. They're a little frothy and they're starting to like leave tracks of the whisk in them. That's how you know we're ready to go. Like I said, about 3 to 5 minutes. So we're gonna take these off the heat now and continue mixing. So we're gonna transfer our meringues into a metal bowl. A glass bowl works well too, but when whipping up meringues, best not to use plastic. Sometimes some oils can hang on and then they just don't let your meringues inflate properly. So we're gonna use the whisk attachment on our electric mixer, start on low, and then just slowly as they start to, as the meringues start to expand and they start to stiffen, then you can start to speed it up. And throughout the mixing, we're gonna slowly add the remaining half of that 1/4 cup of sugar that we started with by adding at the beginning. We're gonna make our first addition of sugar. We're just gonna kind of sprinkle it around the top. And if you have to tilt the bowl a little bit just to get it so that you're actually getting anything in there, you can always start by doing that. Check. Yep, our meringues have a nice stiff peak on them. So at this point, we're gonna add in 3/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and we're gonna mix that in on a low speed, and then we're gonna start piping. Beautiful. Our meringues are ready to go into our piping bag. So here's another time where you can kind of individualize this pie, do it as you want. I'm gonna pipe little dollops and a little design on the top of my pie, but if you wanna just cover it and then torch the top of it to get that nice toasted marshmallow flavor, you can totally do that too. This is all about individual expression, so have fun with it. My piping bag is all filled with our meringue, and I'm gonna start by making a circle on the outside with the meringue and then kind of seeing where that takes me with the design. Just gonna do a little poof. And then for symmetry, go to the other side. To get that final bit of marshmallow and toasted flavor, we're actually going to torch the meringue. So I have like a creme brulee torch here. Just make sure you read the safety instructions on it before you use it because it does create quite the powerful open flame. So we're just gonna toast all these little bits and then our pie's done. So it only takes a few seconds, but you wanna make sure you get around all of the bits so you get those nice toasted marshmallow flavor. And when you pipe it, sometimes you get those nice little ridges, which is why I like to use the piping tip. So you get this really pretty look to your meringues when they're done. And they're done. I'm gonna let this continue to cool before I slice it and have a little piece. But thank you for joining us again today. For more recipes like this and for tips and tricks, be sure to visit us at centerstagesweets.com. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Center Stage Sweets. And if you're feeling really generous, you can become a Patreon supporter and help us keep the oven on. Thanks. See you next time.